All right, let's get started. My name is Sean Mathis, and I'll be your lecturer through the next couple of weeks while we learn and explore exercise science, specifically leadership and anaerobic exercise. I start most lectures with two things. One, what the heck are we doing here? So basically our objectives or outcomes after the class, as well as a story a day. Before we get into our story a day, we'll go through, this is my email. If you need to contact me, feel free to leave email here or bring your issues, comments, or concerns up during our weekly Zoom calls. It may take me a minute to respond. If it's urgent, just tag the subject line as such, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Our story of the day, this one is about a wrestler. I'd like for you guys to read it and kind of absorb it. About a wrestler who consults with a very good coach, asks him what the difference is between the 98% and the 2%, essentially. The difference is the mindset. If the wrestler knew that he was already going to be a champion, he would act as such. That's the difference between the 2% versus the 98%. The 98% waits for the outcome to start acting that way, whereas the 2% act that way and then become that way. That's a lesson hammered out through the entire Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, as well. Both tremendous reads and a lot of lessons to absorb from that. We get into leadership. Leadership is very obviously a relative term, and it is going to have significant differences from individual to individual. So it's always good to take at least a baseline standpoint. That way we can start from the basics and build upon. Just zoom out here. There we go. So what is leadership? By definition, in the Merriam-Webster, the power or ability to lead other people. Very vanilla, cut and dry and simple. There's more to it than just that. Another possible definition is the ability to influence people effectively and connect in order to pursue a common goal. That's a better example of leadership to me. It's more relative to me versus the baseline absolute. In order to be an effective leader, you must also be an eternal student, striving to gain more knowledge, experience, and develop your skills to offer the best knowledge transfer you can to your students. One common flaw in the way we think is once we have X, it'll be Y, or once I'm a champion in the story of the day, I'll act like a champion. That's not necessarily the truth. You must believe in what you are and affirm it from there. And again, that's a great Dale Carnegie reference. But if I want to continuously to give the most relevant and up-to-date information, I must continue to stay relevant in the field. And that's why many PhD holders are required to do a specific amount of research in the industry every year in order to stay on top, because you're never done. You should never just feel like it's over once you finish your degree, or whether it's your bachelor's, your master's, or your doctoral degree. No matter what, the question should always remain, what's next? One of my favorite interview questions is, what are you most professionally proud of? And then upon follow-up after a couple of minutes, ask how you plan on topping that, because you should always have a plan on the next move. What is your next goal? We need to set goals for ourselves and make sure that we're making the tiny micro decisions about those goals throughout our everyday life to get there. What is leadership? It's more than just a definition. It's inspiring others to shape their actions or behavior through proven expertise, charisma, or ability. This is going to break down into basically three categories, and there's three main ways that people gain influence, and it is through expertise. So who is the expert in the field in a given subject? Or just natural charisma. You may have seen in your lives before, there was just a person in your life, whether it be a relative or a coach or a teacher, that had this natural way about them that made you want to just kind of buy into what they're selling, so to speak. And then finally, ability. This is why a lot of professional athletes or high-level athletes, when they're no longer in the competitive circuit, step out and start coaching or consulting, because it is a natural and easy in for influences. Well, hey, look, this is how I did it when I played in the pros, and that's a very hard statement to trump. They don't always necessarily make the best coaches, and it's just simply because they have done it. Doesn't mean they know how to do it. They don't know the mechanisms behind it. And that's not always the case, of course, but just to keep that in the back of your mind. What makes a good leader will vary from one individual to another. We talked about that a little bit earlier, is that it's completely a relative definition and experience. One may consider someone the best leader in the world versus they think another person in their circle is not such a good leader, whereas they have their own following. And I guess the best reality, or I guess the most relevant analogy, would be the political structure in the U.S. We're split between essentially a two-party system primarily, and you have what seems like half of the country votes X and the other half of the country votes Y. So no matter what, there's this big disagreement in what a good leader is, or what the best person to fulfill the job is. So that's just a way of looking at it and how it can be so relative. Who do you consider a leader? So part of your assignment for this week is to dig deep down into your own experiences and discuss who, you don't have to mention them by name, but their position or title that they fulfilled when you considered them a leader, what they did. And I would like for you to choose what it was about them. Was it their qualities? Was it their charisma, their expertise, or their ability? Were they just the best father you ever saw, so therefore they were a leader to you because of that? Or were they the most successful sprinter in your entire track and field career that you ever witnessed, etc.? So find that leader, whoever it was, discuss it briefly about what made you feel that they were earning of that title. We'll discuss mine a little bit, and we are actually going to attempt to Zoom with him at some point. I still chat with him periodically, professionally, getting his input on things, and I'll run things by him from time to time. His name is Mark Taysom. He was a tactical strength conditioning coach for a brigade while I was active duty in the Army in Fort Carson, Colorado. He was also a Team USA weightlifting coach and Denver Broncos strength and conditioning coach. Well versed. I call him the wizard of strength and conditioning, because he always has some very unorthodox mechanisms to get to a desired outcome that are somewhat against the grain, but typically always work. He's also a really well-rounded injury prevention and return to play protocol strength and conditioning coach. I don't know what happened there. I think lost internet connection. So we'll pick up right where we left off and hope that I didn't lose any information. So Mark Taysom, the wizard of strength and conditioning. Let's start talking about what a leader prioritizes. I think that's pretty obvious that it should never should be themselves. We, as a leader, we want to make sure that their best intentions are those that they are leading. That was the opposite of what I was doing. There we go. So good leaders' first priority is not themselves, it's the people they are leading, and that's how it should be. Effective communication skills for a leader. To be an effective leader, you must have good communication skills, quite obviously. You need to be able to disseminate, delegate information. You need to be able to get critical points across, or even criticism across to those that you're leading without necessarily becoming an enemy or resented. So we must be clear and concise. We must be non-insulting, and we must be able to, the leaders must be able to be critical without diminishing their effectiveness. Keep things clear, simple, and specific. Discussion should be at the level that your client or the people that you're leading can understand. So you're going to walk out of this degree with some advanced knowledge in exercise science and personal training, strength and conditioning, occupational therapy, physical therapy, whatever it is that your route is going. You're going to walk out with some more advanced vernacular language understanding, a deeper understanding. But trying to, in a sense, market that is a little inefficient in being able to truly communicate what you're trying to get across. If you don't want to use big flashy words just to impress clients and try to score a larger buy-in that way. So from communication, we talk about feedback and how it should be delivered. For everything, there is a science, of course, and this is well studied and pretty regarded as true. Consider it market research or whatever you want. Feedback should be given to your athlete, your client, on technical performance after they have completed the movement. You want to allow them to finish whatever they are doing before giving them the information. That way they're not thinking on the spot on what they're doing. In most cases, feedback needs to be specific and meaningful. Don't just give feedback to hear yourself talk. Avoid using that as a chance to once again flaunt or floss your knowledge. Balance is the key. So specific, concise, technical, given after the exercise is performed or after the event is performed, needs to be delivered in a specific order. We call it the sandwich. This is what you did. Allow time for them to think or problem solve. This is what I want you to do. And even a demonstration will help. So here's what you did. This is why it's wrong. I want you to do it this way. Always begin and end on what you want them to do, not what they're doing wrong. Typically, the last bit of information is going to be the most relevant in the mind. Skill set, we always want to lead from the front. Is it fair to ask your clients to do something that you cannot do? This does not mean you're training someone to be a little bit stronger and they're already stronger than you. That's a very ill-mannered way to approach this. You're not always going to be the strongest or the smartest in the room. And as a mentor or as a leader, your goal should always be to lead someone to be better than you are. And that's how we continuously progress as a society. You should always, in a sense, outgrow your coach or your mentor. If not, Derek Jeter would have had the same little league batting coach all throughout his MLB career. And I just highly doubt that that's the case. You should also set the example for people to follow. So you should train. You should have a good baseline of knowledge, a good understanding on how to get stronger. You don't necessarily have to be the strongest, but if you are not if you're not in a way walking the walk, don't talk the talk. This means lifting yourself and demanding the same things of yourself that you ask of your client. So self-control and discipline and being well-rounded in the program. Just because you hate cardio doesn't mean that you should tell your clients to do really challenging cardio circuits and intervals and you not do anything in that realm. You should also understand what specific things feel like. If you're testing a client on an anaerobic test and you've never, what we call at our facility, rode the lightning, then you need to kind of feel it so you can understand and have that empathy after the end of the test and know what's best. Also know the danger signs, the warning signs of if they're pushing too hard. Why should leadership be important to us? People are going to look to you for answers and solutions to their problems. You know, they're coming in and buying your services or subscribing to your services if you're not in the private sector for specific reasons. They want to be stronger or faster or bigger or leaner or smaller or happier with their own self-image, whatever their reason is, whatever they're actually buying or subscribing to, they're looking to you to get it. So we must be well-rounded and well-versed, understand how to give that to them. So if their goals are fat loss, improved body composition, improved quality of life, enhanced athletic performance, how are we going to get those? By getting stronger. So now we're getting into the anaerobic exercise portion